Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm really excited for this first meeting for Ways and Means. And I'm hoping that you're excited for being on the committee. We have a lot before us, so I'd like to call our meeting to order.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Vaquero,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Present.
Alderman Muhammad,
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg,
Present.
Alderwoman Navarro,
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderwoman Evans, Chairwoman Davis.
Present.
10 present, you have quorum.
Thank you very much. As we move forward today, I also want to first acknowledge that Carol Howard is our vice chair for this committee. And in the event that I cannot be present, as you all know, she will be handling everything. The first item on our agenda would be the approval of the minutes from February 2nd, 2021.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the Ways and Means Committee hearing from February 2nd, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Could you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Abstain.
Alderman Vaquero,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro,
Abstain.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans, Chairwoman Davis.
Aye.
8 aye votes and 2 abstain.
Thank you very much. We have no board bills for review at this point, nor resolutions for review. So our first item is for committee discussion will be the schedule for the 2021 budget hearings and as we move forward related to the board bill number 1, which is listed there. I wanted to see if Paul Payne, Paul, can you just give us a little overview of your anticipation for our interaction for the next probably 4 weeks?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Basically, I'm prepared to obviously make the presentation in terms of the overall budget, which similar to the one I made to the Board of E&A, and which is online, as you should know by now. But we would be available to assist you as you deliberate over the budget with any information that you see, any further information that you need or request. What you have before you are, we did a little different this year in terms of the documents. We actually had some hard copies of the line item, the revenues, and the board bill. We didn't actually print the AOP, which is the more narrative version of the budget, but that is online. So all those documents are online. We could print those if you need those hard copies. We can do that as well.
They were forwarded to us, so we have that.
Okay, great. But again, as you begin this process, and I'll present the summary, the overview, and then you get into the departments. Any information that you would need in your deliberations, we'd be available to assist you with it to the extent that we can. Others might be from the departments themselves. But again, this budget, similar to in years past, there weren't that many changes as we went through this process. But this current year, as similar to last year, given the pandemic, given the new administration, given that all of that going on at the same time, I would expect that there's going to be a lot of moving parts with this process as it goes forward. So Again, as in last year, we just need to be a little nimble on that process. But again, we'll be available should you need any assistance in getting information. We'll make our office available.
Well, I thank you, and I do know that you have always been very available to us and also considerate as we're moving forward with these budgets. What I'd like to do is to share with you that Vice Chair Howard and I did meet with the Chief of Staff of the Mayor and Paul earlier, and we did talk about a few things that I'd like to discuss with the committee so that you can make those final decisions about how we move forward. So the first thing that we wanted to do is we want to discuss when we meet. We talked about Wednesday and Thursdays because I think it's better to meet 2 days simultaneously rather than separated, because I want to keep the flow and the thought process together. So if your schedules permit that, and I'm asking us to look at our calendars now so that we can get an idea and we can print this out for the public so that other people who may be interested can look in on these meetings. So if you could take a moment as I'm talking about the time and look at your calendars, it would be appreciated, because I'm gonna go around to each person after I finish these couple of items. We also talked about the time. So 9 a.m. on that first day, whether on a Wednesday or whatever we come up with, is good. And then I thought the next day should be an afternoon time so that you wouldn't have 2 mornings in a row, and you would be able to be flexible with your schedules for other things as well. And then as you look at this, I thought we needed to put a time parameter on this. So versus just sitting there going through things forever and ever on a 4 or 5 hour day, I think it's more important that we put timelines in place. That gives us better expectations for coming prepared if we have some concerns or questions, and also lets the public know we're not just going to sit here all day just because. We're going to be about business. We're going to have our presentations before us. They will also have time limits unless you as a committee choose to take more time. So I'm anticipating at this point that we max out at 3.5 hours, and a half hour of that on public hearings, which we'll talk about that in just a second, will be, we'll slot a half hour for that and 3 hours for us to do our work. Early on, I think that's going to be good. When we get towards the end, we may have to extend it another hour or whatever is required. So let's start off with Alderman Boyd and see if these dates and times work for your schedule, sir.
Madam Chairwoman, I serve at the pleasure of the chair, and whatever date you recommend is the date that I'll support. So that's fine with me, Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Alderman Vaccaro.
I'm good with that.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Howard.
As we discussed, yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Boyd.
I'm fine with Wednesday or Thursday. I just have to move some things. So you're saying Wednesday in the morning and Thursday in the afternoon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that'll be fine. I'll just move some stuff around. I'll pull out Erica's hair, but she'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just for the sake of being honest here, I would prefer all morning meetings. We tend to have committees in the mornings, you know, so that would be my preference, but I serve at the pleasure of the chair. So we'll accommodate the schedule however you set it.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Collins Muhammad.
No conflict, Madam Chair, whatever the committee decides.
Thank you very much. Alderman Oldenburg.
I don't have an issue with either of those days, Madam Chair, but for what it's worth, I would note that if on Thursdays we could start after 1:30 or maybe at 2. I just have a standing 1 o'clock conflict, but if I need to move that, I certainly can. I just wanted to make that note to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wednesdays and Thursdays look good for me. The one thing, though, I just am noting is my calendar is showing we have a Board of Aldermen meeting on Thursday, the 27th, and I think maybe that's because of the Memorial Day weekend. Is anyone else's calendar showing that?
That's what that is.
That's
Okay,
what it is.
so
But
I
we
then
have to
have a
have
bunch
that.
of things in the afternoon because that meeting is happening, and a bunch of things have got squished into that Thursday, the 27th. So that's the only day that might be hard for me if we meet that afternoon. I have several other things that got piled in there that I cannot move. But in general,
Okay.
Wednesdays and Thursdays are fine.
And we may have to skip that day because of that change. So I have been looking at that. Thank you. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Any day that you decide will work for me, I'm good.
All right, thank you. And I don't do good going back and forth looking at everybody. Is Alderwoman Evans here yet? Okay. All right. So we're going to continue to with that in mind, and we'll make sure that we look at the date for the holiday, and we will run into things as we move forward because we do know there are some other important committees that are going to have to meet because of timeline, and we will adjust accordingly. But if we know that this is our schedule, more than likely we can't meet it because we already have it in place. And talking about the budget concerns, one of the things that I thought might be helpful for us in deliberating this budget is if we took a moment, and Budget Director Payne indicated, early on we got the summary, and I examined it very closely and came up with just one thing that I was extremely interested in. But I would suggest that we all examine that. That way you can formulate concerns that you may have early on versus waiting until the absolute end of the process. And then we're trying to scramble and come up with some things. So I'd like to see those things come before us early, your concerns, and we can put them on the table, and it gives all of us an opportunity to look at it closer, find strategies, alert Budget Director Payne, and work, I think, a little bit more fluid. And if you have new items that you'd like to request and or reductions that you'd like to request, I'm not going to wait until at the end of the budget cycle as far as us preparing for that. I think they should come as early as possible because for me, I don't want the public to look at us and say, well, they just came up with that at the 11th hour just because. No, we're going to have our due diligence in place as early as possible in this process. And most especially when we have different departments come before us, I'd like to take 15 or 20 minutes after they leave. And if you have some major concerns, we put them forth, we bring them before us early and not at the end of the process. So I'd like to hear comments on those things that I just mentioned. And very quickly, we can go around to get everybody's opinion. So Alderman Boyd, what do you think?
I'm very flexible, Madam Chair.
Okay, you're making this too easy now. Hold on.
Well, even though I haven't been on Ways and Means a while, I still feel like I'm a veteran of Ways and Means. So I just kind of go with the flow.
Okay. And Alderman Vaccaro?
Really no question. So you're saying as each group comes in, are we gonna have the sheets then? We're gonna accumulate our cutback?
Absolutely.
And then do we wanna accumulate that money and then do the putbacks? Only because I don't know that we could put back each time. Maybe we accumulate, just from my experience, we're gonna accumulate so we know where to put it.
What you would be doing is you would actually be operating in what I consider to be a more accurate way. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each item as it comes before us. And we'll also have Paul Payne doing the same thing, because sometimes we can solve these problems a lot easier and earlier in the process. And that's what we want to do.
Well, for instance, I'll just use it as a for instance. Say I'm going to take money out of the mayor's budget. I don't know that I necessarily know where I want to put it at just at the minute. So would we just fill out the sheets, taking out what we want, but not putting back? Because I don't know where I want it to go to.
Well, I'm sure that there's going to be someone else at the table that has some other items. And so that's why I'm saying if we share early, we can really make this process work better.
Okay. And just for those that haven't been on here on that, we can take money from one department and move it to another. Ways and Means, then it would go to E&A. E&A can't put back anything we take out, but they don't necessarily have to put it where we want. And we can't add money where there's no money. Since the budget's a balanced budget, we can only shift things around, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I'll give another example so that we can be sure that everyone's clear. When we go back and look at Cure Violence, I think it was suggested that we took the money out of the police budget, but the budget director found funds along with E&A to make that happen, and it didn't come out of the police budget. So that's why I'm saying it's better for us to know earlier instead of waiting till the 11th hour if we already know some concerns we have, and do them along with the budget director and see what we can make happen. I don't think that anything in this budget will be that difficult to deal with. I think we have a good mix on this committee that's looking at different parts of the city, different concerns of the city. And I think that we can really support each other and make this budget work. And I always have had confidence in our budget director, because his process over the years have made us, I think, look good as far as being able to operate in this city and having the funds necessary for each department to move forward. So I think we're going to be okay. He's forecast us very well in the past, and I think he's well prepared for this one too. So
if I may add, Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you. I was going to suggest also in years past, there have been requests for either cuts or adds. We in the budget division would be willing to prepare those for you regardless of substance. I mean, our role obviously wouldn't be commenting on whatever the substance of the amendment might be, but we would help with the actual getting it into technical form so that you can debate it without having to worry about the whether or not it's the right account or something like that. So we would be available to do that as well.
And because
that's very good. You're right.
Because of time, I'm not going to add, because I certainly have a bunch of questions for Paul, but because we're doing that tour, I'm just want to stay conscious of the time.
Well, we'll have time for that as well.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
That's why I said I'll hold everything, just because of the timing for today is kind of bad.
Okay. Vice Chair Howard.
I have no comments. I just think that it'll be fine if we do this as we go along, because sometimes it's hard to go back and recall what was presented. So I think as we go along, if we have concerns or we want to, add something or cut something, we do that and then gather those and at the end, see what kind of horse trading we can do.
Okay. All
Okay,
right. Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd.
Okay, it kept going on the mute. I'm fine. I don't have a problem, and it might sound crazy, but I'm still learning the process, so I'm okay.
Oh, we all will learn something every day, no
Right.
matter how long you've been here. So yes, you're okay. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This process works for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Alderman Collins Muhammad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we don't have the luxury of time to go through every penny and every dime in the city's budget, but we normally hear from the same departments and divisions as it relates to their budget. And I think that it would be beneficial to hear from unconventional departments and city offices that we don't have the opportunity to hear from a lot. I would like to see that change with this budget season. Other than that, I'm fine with everything else.
I can agree with you, and that was going to be my next topic. If you had a very specific department that you're interested in hearing from, please forward it to me, and I will make sure that we add those to the schedule for hearings.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I think that you can look at what we've done in the past and see how, exactly what you said. And we do have some new concerns for the city of St. Louis based on the last couple of years. And we do need to look at some different departments. So I can agree with you. Thank you. Alderman Oldenburg.
I have no problems with what you laid out, Madam Chair. Sounds great to me.
Okay. Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my first time on Ways and Means, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. I think the process sounds good in terms of raising issues as they come up. Did you say that means any amendments during the process also need to be raised as we go along, as opposed, or are you talking about just kind of the discussion? Could you just walk through that for me in terms of what the amendment process looks like?
Okay. So yes, I am saying that. Normally, we do all our amendments at the end of the process after having department hearings and all of that. But I think it might benefit us all to do them as we go along, because this is a very different year for the budget process. And we want to make sure that we do things early enough. So if it's required for the budget director in the mayor's office to have some conversations and to adjust some things, we want us to work together. And so I'm thinking that we all can learn and appreciate each other's requests and ideas if we do them as we go along instead of rushing at the end. You can have, even if you have one today and you wanted to send it forward, why not? I think I shared one with Budget Director Payne that I already have, because for me, I'm extremely concerned about the city of St. Louis and its streets and vacant lots. When we talk about our environment, when we talk about how we're going to showcase this city for new people to come and live here, residents, development, new businesses, our city is dirty. And we need to clean it up, and we need to have a plan of action to keep it clean. And we probably could evolve outside of the budget, even into some legislation that needs to be for us to put forward. That's my number one right now. And I know everything else is being addressed appropriately so, but I don't hear that being talked about. And it's really out of control right now. So that was my early. I made that very clear. And I will continue to talk about it. I'm sure some people have some things on their mind, and we might as well get them out early so we can deal with it.
Great, thank you. That makes sense to me. And then I just had one follow-up question. In terms of the departments that present, are all of the, and again, because this is my first time being on the committee, are not all of the departments that have a budget in here invited to present, or do we just normally hear from certain ones? Can you just
We
explain a
normally
little bit
get
about that?
requests. Yeah, we normally get requests from our committee members, but there's standard departments that are very large and that the public normally has a great concern about their numbers and what they're spending the money on. So we make sure that we bring those departments forward. And that's what Alderman Collins Muhammad was referring to. We always hear from the police department, the fire department, streets, parks and recreation, and a couple others. But based on what we're going through and have gone through in the last year, I think that there are some other departments that should come before us now.
Okay,
And if
thank
you
you.
have any, do you have one or two or whatever, please send them forward so that we can get them on the agenda.
Great, thank you. This all sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going with the consensus right now. So whatever everyone agrees to, I just got vomited on. So
Okay.
that works for me.
All righty, thank you. So let's go back to item number 1 and looking at the schedule and everything. Madam Clerk, I think I sent a document that was kind of an example of how we schedule those hearings. Did you have an opportunity to put it into Google?
I believe it was uploaded to the Google Drive and it was emailed to the committee.
Wonderful. So Budget Director Payne found one of the schedules that we had before so that you can look at that and get an idea about how those hearings look. And I think we'll follow the same process. We get a review of the budget from Paul Payne first. Then we bring in the Board of E&A for their budgets. We hear them first, the second part of it. And then we also put the major departments in first because they take the longest. And when we talk about 3 hours, that means that probably for police department, you would only have that one before you that day because it's going to take the whole 3 hours. As we continue to schedule, I want input from this committee about our scheduling. So as I said, if you have a department that you're extremely interested in bringing before us, please send that to us so that we can get that scheduled. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity on this committee to have what they need before them so that we can make what I consider to be very astute decisions in formulating the final budget. I think that we're doing pretty good on time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one more round with the committee. If there's anything else that you have that you'd like to ask or put on the table at this moment, feel free to do that, because the only other thing we have left now is if there are some announcements, excusing the alderpersons, and adjourn. So I think we can easily take another 10 minutes or so and give each committee person another opportunity to ask questions or anything you have. So we'll start with you, Alderman Boyd.
Madam Chair, I have nothing to add at this time. I'm here for the ride. Looking forward to it.
Do you not have at least one point of wisdom from all your experience?
Well, okay, since you want me to talk, pay attention to detail. Paul Payne is real good at the shell game. You know, he hides money in different departments, you know, half here, half there. Really, you know, pay attention, read, and ask questions. I know the chair is stickler for time, but being on Ways and Means, one of the most frustrating things for me sometimes is being cut off because of the sake of time. And if you really want to get to know how this budget process works and how our resources are employed, then you need to ask questions. You know, there's no such thing as a dumb question. If you don't know, you don't know. And especially all the new people, you're here to learn. I think it's kind of neat for the new people. If you're on Ways and Means, it's probably one of the most challenging committees, but you learn so much and you interact with so many different departments. So get as much as you can out of it.
Thank you. That was very, very well said. And I totally agree with you. Alderman Vaccaro.
I'll be very quick. One, Glenn's here, so everybody's here. So we don't have to excuse anybody. But I would just say, especially for the newer, this is not the place that you argue that because the heads of the departments are coming in. And if you spend 30 minutes talking about the sidewalks or trees in your neighborhood instead of the budget, you know, I would hope that the chairman cuts you off for that, because I've sat through these where some people will, well, my trash didn't get picked up in this block, well, the neighbor's on this block, and then I'm still waiting for sidewalks, and how come the trees, the overgrown grass over here, none of which has to do with the budget, but generally will take a lot of time. So I would just ask the chairman, keep us on point. Other than that, I have really nothing.
I can agree with you as well, sir. Thank you. Chairwoman Howard.
I agree with both of the preceding comments, and I would like to add the only dumb question is the one that isn't asked.
That's true.
That's the teacher in me. You know, you need to inquire pertinent questions that are germane to what we're talking about, not, you know, why your trees weren't planted or the trash wasn't picked up. Save that for when you meet with the departments on your budget. So on your personal, the ward capital. So that's where that goes. So just let's move along and let's do the best we can to make our city run well. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Alderwoman Boyd.
I'm just ditto to the people that have spoke before me. And just FYI, this committee details a lot of reading and understanding. And so you think you've been doing a lot of reading since you just got on the board. Trust me, this committee will educate you even more. So as Alderwoman Carol Howard said, I always ask questions because I ask a ton of questions. And so I'm just telling you, just come in with open eyes and don't feel that you can be in the silo, because you won't. In this committee, we work really together as a whole to try to come to an agreement. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I need to follow up on that very quickly. We have before us a budget that appears to be unlimited to the public. But as you get to work with this, you'll realize that it is not, and there's not a lot of waste as a lot of people believe. And it's going to be a critical time for us to make sure that this budget works and works for everybody. So I thank you very much. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I would maybe ask or maybe discuss briefly would be all of the budget documents, the online ones, particularly those presentations by Paul Payne. They get updated through the process and maybe distributed to the Board of ENA and then back to the Board of Aldermen and that sort of thing, especially towards the end. If there was a way we could house all of the online documents particular to this budget cycle and the budget discussions that we're having in one particular place that would be easy to access and to refer to, I think that might be helpful.
Well,
that-
yeah, I agree with you. And it's one of the things I'm working towards, and we're hoping that we can achieve very soon, is that we need to have in-person meetings, because that will help us as well. But those documents are always stored where the public can ask for information. But on this Google Drive, I don't see that anything that we're doing is private. So
No, sorry, Madam Chair, I should be more clear. More for the public as well. And I do know that Paul does a great job of updating the budget site, but there's so many budget documents there. And the latest one, the latest, greatest, is maybe not immediately clear. And, there's hundreds of budget documents in that budget transparency portal. So I was thinking it may make sense to have either a Google Drive or some, segment of the budget website that is particular and exclusive to this budget process, and has the presentations as presented to ENA and any update, as they're being updated and changed, especially as we're getting new numbers related to, pandemic income and that sort of thing. I know that was a big issue last year. It's probably not going to be as big of an issue this year, as the budget's not as fluctuating during this process as it was last year, but it may be helpful just for, especially working documents to which we're referring on a regular basis, to have one clear place where we can all, especially the committee, refer to on a regular basis.
Okay, so Director Payne, you heard that, and I think that that's something that you and our clerk could work on together on how we'll be updating everything.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I asked that same question of IT, because I know what you're talking about, because we've got all the documents there. But when you, for instance, when you open our website, you'll see the ALP, that's the premier document there, which is easy to click. But if you're looking for the line item, you have to page down. Yeah. I was wondering whether or not we could actually have, I was wondering whether we could actually have thumbnails of each document right below there, right? And that would make a lot of sense, because you got, unfortunately, the way the web, we're using a canned website, and so you have only so much leeway with how it's set up. I mean, if you look at every department, it's the same structure. So I think maybe we can work with IT a little bit more. But I know what you're talking about, because I asked the same thing. I said, how come we can't just have all of them up at the top, and each one is like that? And I think, again, it was restricted by how the website is configured. But I can ask them again.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So we'll work on that as soon as possible, so that hopefully we can get that in a better framework where it's easier for people to follow. So thank you for that question. Alderman Collins Muhammad. Alderman Collins Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am. No comments or questions, Madam Chair. I'm good.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Oldenburg.
No, Madam Chair, I'm good right now. Thank you.
All righty. Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have anything for discussion. Just want to say, as a little bit of a Ways and Means groupie in the past, I'm glad to be participating in the discussion this time around, and I look forward to learning a lot. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I'm sorry, I have no questions or comments.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Evans.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad this is my first time on Ways and Means. I'm here to learn the process and ask a lot of questions. And I'm glad to be on board. I see I'm up for a lot of excitement.
Absolutely. Lots of reading. Lots of reading. It's wonderful. Okay. So we've actually, I think, have a pretty good understanding of the flow of the process. And also, I have a good feel for how we are going to gel together. So I like it when people ask questions, whether it's a question that's positive, negative, whatever, it doesn't matter, because I guarantee you at least one other person is sitting there wanting to ask that same question. So always, always ask or suggest anything that you have on your mind. And as we move forward for the next couple of weeks, we will take those larger departments first and get them out of the way. So know that that schedule is going to have our larger departments for them to come before us first. And that also frees us up to know where we may have some additional funds if we need to move anything or suggest something new. I was looking here on my notes, and Budget Director Payne, I'm also going to be relying on you heavily when you believe that something has drastically changed, that we know as soon as possible if you have to adjust something. Because we know that our city, we've been through a number of different crises, especially over the last 14 years I've been on it, and things can change. So we do know that that's possible, but I know that you will let us know as soon as possible, and you'll come prepared with those adjustments that you believe are required.
Sure.
And my last item here looks like, before we close out, does anybody have any announcements that they need to make for this committee? And I'm gonna give you a little fun thing. I served on a national board one time, and the chair would always say, now, under announcements, you can resign from the committee. And I would just laugh. I always make that available. So, but I'm sure that none of us will want to do that. And I hope that all of us stay to the end of the process. We don't need to excuse any older persons. And the chair is willing to accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Second,
Are we coming back this Wednesday, Thursday, or today's
Well,
Wednesday? We coming back tomorrow, or?
I can share with you that we are not coming back tomorrow.
Okay,
Because we have to notify departments. I needed to make sure that you were okay first. The committee had to have input before I would start that agenda for inviting people. So we will invite some people next Wednesday. And of course, our budget director will make his presentation first. And there's usually time after that we can invite in one or however many of the Board of E&A for their budgets. So that's what we're looking forward to for our next meeting on Wednesday. Anything else?
I think I made a motion, we adjourn, I think.
So we made a motion to adjourn, and
Second.
I heard a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks. See everybody over.
Meeting adjourned.